There are plenty of signs that Toronto's real estate market is back to life. Find out more in today's market update. For the second straight month, we saw a big jump in sales in Toronto's core. February had 39% more sales than January. Now, 39% seems like a really big increase, especially when I was gushing last month about the 16% jump that occurred from December to January. But when I look back to 2018, there was only 1 year, 2023, last year, where sales didn't increase at least 39% from January to February. So this bump in sales from last month sounds big, but it's really quite normal. And you could even say that it's somewhat on the lower side of increases compared to other years. So there's renewed buyer interest, but it seems like rates are keeping things in check and causing buyers to not be out in absolute droves like in previous years. New listings also increased in the core compared to January, but only by 28%. So right away you can see an outpacing of sales compared to new listings, which leads to a tighter market. You've got more active buyers than active sellers, which leads to increased competition on the good properties, multiple offers, and escalating prices. Active inventory rose by 22%, which demonstrates that it's not just the same properties being relisted a day later, but that we're starting to see new properties not previously listed become available for sale. But don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there were plenty of homes listed later in 2023 that are now reappearing, given that the market conditions seem to be improved compared to when they first tried to sell. I mentioned last month that it seemed like offer nights were making a comeback in the core, and February showed that to be true. Many properties were intentionally underpriced and they received multiple offers the following week. And even properties not necessarily underpriced received multiples. Some buyer clients of mine had to compete to land a home in Leaside. If the neighborhood is desirable and if the type of home doesn't become available too often, competition among buyers is likely to happen. Prices, however, still seem to not be fluctuating too greatly from previous months. Nothing has changed in variable mortgage rates by much, and fixed rates have bounced around a bit but remain fairly high. So for the most part, affordability hasn't changed all that much for buyers. Switching to Scarborough, Etobicoke, and North York, there were very similar patterns in the changes, but at reduced rates. Sales were up, but by 28%. New listings were also up, but by 19%. Active inventory was up 18%. So they're the exact same trends as what was seen in the core, but the increases weren't quite as robust. In January, activity seemed to be more fervent in those outer areas compared to the core, but in February, Toronto's core jumped back to the lead. So looking back at previous years, I can see that typically the core has greater real estate activity. So consider January as a bit of an anomaly and February as a return to the norm when comparing the two areas. For March, I'm expecting to see more of what February brought. Buyers will get off the fence and enter the market, and more sellers will list their homes for sale. But buyers will outnumber sellers, competition will rise, and so will prices, albeit somewhat modestly for now. I'm Harnish, Toronto Real Estate Navigator with Bosley Real Estate. I want to thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you watching. If you're catching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell so that you get notified of all upcoming content.